Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to Blinkers Off, and welcome to kind of a special show. I'm going to do it solo today. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of holiday stuff going on for the rest of the guys, so just thought I'd knock this out solo today. We're going to talk about the Clark. Should be fun weekend of racing. Black Friday coming up, and that'll be when the Clark is, and then we've got a nice Saturday slate as well. Talk about the Goldenrod, a huge race for the fillies, and then, of course, the Kentucky Jockey Club and the Hollywood Derby live from Del Mar. So we've got a lot going on. It should be a pretty fun afternoon here, or I guess morning, depending on where you're at, as we kind of go through it. First thing I want to talk about, though, before we get into the stakes races today, I do want to talk about a couple of races when it comes to the Kentucky Derby that we really need to keep an eye out for. Of course, Pool 2 of the Kentucky Derby Future Wager will open on Thursday. So I'll talk about that for a second. 40 entries, quote unquote entries in this one. All other Colts and Geldings, they're 4 to 5. So the all others, usually the favorite in these early pools, will be the favorite once again. So, if you want to take 4 to 5, you can do that. If you want just the fillies, well, that's 50 to 1 right now. And again, these will change, but that's what they kind of the quote unquote morning line is. So there's kind of your kind of all others type of categories. And then there's 38 entries here that are just one horse. So we'll see. And like Rob says, he loves betting the horses that won't make the gate. It is tough. But here's a couple that we want to talk about. It's a race happening today. And I think if you are bored or if you're into horse racing, you really need to watch this race. 7th race at Churchill Downs. The number 3 Barnes is set to debut for Bob Baffert. So Bob Baffert brings this horse to Churchill to debut. Now, here's the important thing. Barnes is a single interest in the Kentucky Derby Future Wager pool. Barnes is 25 to 1 morning line. He has not started a race. So if he wins, and he wins impressively like most think he will, what will he actually go down to? Will he be the favorite in this pool by the time it closes? Like, what will happen? And if he loses, what will you get him at in the pool? 50 to 1, 100 to 1? It'll be interesting to see what happens. But Barnes, a horse, a big-time debuting horse, a very highly hyped horse. Sometimes they win, sometimes they disappoint, right? It is horse racing. That's kind of the first thing I want to talk about on the show today. Barnes running right here on Wednesday as we record this, or as we're live to you guys. And if you're hearing the podcast version, we recorded it on Wednesday. So we'll see what happens with Barnes. That's a very interesting horse. One we'll keep an eye on for sure. Another one to keep an eye on, and this horse is not running in the Kentucky Jockey Club. We'll talk about some of those horses a little bit later, but he's running in the Florida Sire Stakes at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. And that is the number 1 rated by merit. So when I do my Kentucky Derby, and that's race 10, by the way, on Saturday at Gulfstream, but when I do my Kentucky Derby videos each week, this horse is always kind of mentioned in the comments, rated by merit. Keep an eye on this horse. See, he's going to do good things. You just wait and see. So we'll talk about him now. First of all, he is, if I can find him here, he is 50 to 1 in the Kentucky Derby future pools as they get ready to open on Thursday. That's what his morning line is. So 50 to 1 for him. If you haven't heard about him yet, if you haven't really, heard much about this horse, it's probably because he's been down at Gulfstream. He's had 3 races at Gulfstream and 3 blowout victories. In Gulfstream during the summer and even into the fall before the big meet starts, that's kind of not ignored, but maybe the whole general public doesn't pay attention to Gulfstream during that time of year. This horse has been really good down there. Broke the maiden by 9, won a stakes 2 races back by 6, and then won another stakes last time out by 3. He has not went 2 turns yet. 6 furlongs, 7 furlongs. This will be the 2-turn debut today. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. I think when I kind of look at this horse, sometimes these Florida bred or the Florida sire races, it's like, yeah, they're okay, but it doesn't really translate as we go on to the trail. Most times it doesn't. We got another Florida bred race here, a Florida sire race, but he's stretching out to 2 turns. So it'll be interesting to kind of judge what he does. Like I said, 51 on the morning line right now for the Kentucky Derby future wager pool. And like I said, he will run Saturday, and we'll see how that kind of affects what happens. But rated by merit, another one I just wanted to mention to kick off the show here, because again, I've had a lot of people text me and write and say, hey, this is a pretty good horse. So, all right, let's get going though with what we're going to do today. And that is handicap the big races on the Thanksgiving weekend. And we will start off with the Clark. So the Clark will kick us off here. Go ahead and just get right to it. Get right to it here. A little bit of a different structured show, obviously going solo today, but that's all right. We'll do the same thing. We'll keep handicapping. All right, so we'll go to the Clark right now. We'll kick it off with our feature race on this Thanksgiving weekend. And look, the Clark, by and large, has been, over the years, has been a great race. Some great memories of the Clark. Will Take Charge First. Game On Dude is one that really comes to mind to me, one of my favorites. But it's now a grade 2 event, and it has lost a little bit of luster. You look at this field, it is not... It's not up to the old Clark standards, that's for sure. But we do have a good betting race. It's a field of 10. None of these horses, I mean, none of them are really that good, right? That we got some decent ones, but none of them are that good. And it could kind of lead to an upset. I'll just get right to it. I put the number 5 Most Wanted on top here. This is undefeated Brad Cox horse, 4 for 4. It's interesting. All 4 of his wins have come by narrow margins, a length or less. And 2 of the 4 wins have been by less than a quarter of a length, a nose and a neck. So this is a horse that has not blown anybody out, but he just seems to be getting better with each start. And I thought the last time out in the Oklahoma Derby, going 1 1/8, I thought that was clearly his best race. At the top of the stretch, I thought he was in a little bit of trouble. EJ Won the Cup and Indispensable were behind him. They're not great, but they're not awful, right? I mean, they kind of whatever. But he looked like maybe he was getting a little bit tired. Then all of a sudden he found another gear and he was able to get the job done. So, a lot of times in this situation, a 3-year-old will be facing older horses for the first time when they step up late in the year in a stakes race like the Clark. He's actually faced older horses twice already. He broke the maiden against older horses at Churchill, and then he won that allowance at Ellis Park in his second start against older horses as well. And a matter of fact, Uno Moss Bourbon was in that allowance race there at Ellis that day, and Uno Moss Bourbon was 3rd behind Most Wanted. And then, of course, Ellis Park Derby and the Oklahoma Derby, 3-year-old races that Most Wanted, kind of won the last 2 against his own age horses. So, anyway, I think he checks a lot of boxes. And I think the biggest thing, you're seeing that progression. You're seeing improvement every single race, at least by the numbers. It says he's improving every single race. I thought the 1 1/8, the same distance as today's, I thought the Oklahoma Derby at 1 1/8, definitely his best race to date. A horse I really liked, thought about putting on top, just couldn't quite get myself to do it. What about the number 7, Rattle and Roll? Last time out off of a long layoff. This horse, hadn't been seen since the 2023 Lucas Classic, then entered the 2024 Lucas Classic, this year. Ran 3rd. I thought was a pretty solid effort. Got beat 3 3/4. Got beat by Hit Show and Cook Creek. 2 horses are in this race. We'll talk about them here in a second. But I don't know. I thought that was a pretty good first race off the layoff. I think this is the right field. I think if he's in good shape or what have you, if he's back to 100% capacity, I think he's got a shot. So at 5-1, I put him in second. I thought he was very interesting in the spot as well. And then the number 9, Cook Creek, I actually put him in 3rd in the spot. And he's another one, 3 straight really nice wins. Then another one, I should say, coming out of the Lucas Classic. I bet him that day. What a heartbreaking loss. Got beat a neck to Hit Show. Did all the dirty work, set pretty fast, a pretty fast pace, and just got snapped off late. Heartbreaking loss. I think he's back here with another chance. I like his outside draw. He is a horse that has been most effective on the lead. So maybe he goes to the lead. Maybe he gets tired again. But, when I just look at him, I think I look at the 3 races back right here at Churchill. He's set off a bit. And I think drawn to the outside, maybe he'll just kind of, if it's real fast up front, if the 1 goes, even if the 5 is kind of going out of his mind a little bit, I don't know. I think he'll sit off and be patient. So Cook Creek, put him in third. Now, I have not mentioned a couple of the shorter prices, including the favorite number 6 Hit Show. If you want to play him, I get it. I'm still kind of debating if I put him on a ticket, but I'm not going to bet him to win. I think he will be bet down a little bit because they're going to see 3 straight wins against pretty similar competition in his last 3 races. I've never been a huge fan of this horse. I'm just really afraid, hey, if he's 8-5, I think we can beat him. I'm not going to be shocked if he wins. I just don't really want to play a horse like Hit Show as the favorite here. Again, if you're sitting here and you're listening to it and you've really liked him, say you've backed him in the last couple of races, I get it. I'm not trying to talk you off of him. I'm just saying, if you look at this field and you're like, I don't know, they kind of all look the same. Well, you don't really want to play the one that looks the same at 8-5 as a horse that might be 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, what have you, right? So I'm against him on the win end. Wouldn't be shocked if he beats me, but I just don't want to play him at a little bit of a short of a price here, even though, like I said, he has won some pretty similar races to this. The other horse that's a little bit of a shorter price is the number 3 Crouppy. He's another one. I've never loved him. He definitely is a 1-run horse, drop back, make 1 run. I went back and forth on maybe trying to put him on a pick 4, pick 5 ticket. I don't think I'm going to do it. I might put him underneath on something if I play that way. I like that Irad's coming to ride him for the 5th straight time and traveling with him, basically. That's nice. It's a nice plus there. You look at his race in the Woodward, he never really did anything. In the Whitney, if you remember, he got second in the Whitney, but the pace really fell apart other than Arthur's Ride that just kicked on. The rest of them kind of came back. And he still was not really a threat to win. Next really dominated him in the Brooklyn. I mean, these are horses that are probably better than what he's facing today. That's the good news. I just couldn't quite get there with him to win. And I have trouble, to be fair, anytime getting there with him to win. It's always just kind of hard to, he's just a grinder, and it's just kind of hard to bet those kinds of grinders. Another horse we'll mention here, Red Route 1. Michael mentions him in the chat, and he's obviously a very popular horse. I did the preview for this, a video already, a preview for this one. And I was like, Red Route 1, a horse we all know, we all follow. It's like, I forgot that he had been gone for this long. The last time we saw Red Route 1 was a victory in the Cornhusker, a grade 3 event there on July 6th. We haven't seen him in 146 days. So he's another one like Crouppy. It's hard. It's always hard to get him to the winner's circle, but you kind of know he's going to show up and run well. But when reviewing, I actually picked him to win the Cornhusker. So there was that. He actually beat Hit Show there that day. So there's that. He won the New Orleans 4 races back as well. So, I mean, if you look at his, let's say you go back 5 races. A lot of people like to go back 5 races. He's 2 for 5. That's not that bad in his last 5 races as far as winning. So I don't know. The other interesting thing with him, I look back all the way through his races. He's never had a break. So that'll be interesting to see how he runs after a little bit of a break. He debuted in August of 2022. You could bet your ass every 30, 40 days. This horse was back on the track running all the way through July of this year. So, that's 2 solid years basically of just every 30, 40, 50 days. He's in a race. And he's in tough races every time as well. So how does he do off the layoff? I think he's interesting in this one. I really, really think he's interested in this one. And Manlow comes in and says Red Route 1 is only 4. Yeah, and the reason why we think he's older is because of what I just said. He never took a, like, 90% of horses these days, they disappear at least for 3 or 4 months, right? This guy just never did until now. So how does he run off the layoff? Who knows? He may run a little bit better. I think he's the wild card. Let's see how he gets bet. 8-1 is the right price, right? I don't think you want to take him at 4 or 5-1. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. 8-1, shit. I mean, he's beaten the favorite in this race, right? So it makes sense. So we'll kind of see how he does. But again, I'm going to go Most Wanted on top. I do like him, quite a bit in this spot. All right, let's keep going. Let's get going now. That was the main race of the weekend, but there are other big ones as well. We're going to go to Churchill Downs now on Saturday. Saturday is always a fun card at Churchill Downs. It's all 2-year-old racing. It's the Stars of Tomorrow 2 card. So it's 12 races, all 2-year-old races. And of course, the Golden Rod will be the big event for the fillies. So we'll talk about the 2-year-old fillies now. The Golden Rod will be race 9 on the card, a grade 2 event going 1 mile and 16th, $400,000 the purse. It's race 9. Let's talk about it. Field of 7, a strong favorite with the number 3, a Good Cheer for Brad Cox, and also Quiet Side, the 4 horse, a horse that was kind of rumored to go to the Breeders' Cup, did not make the race, and ended up here now in the Golden Rod. On paper, this is way a 2-horse race. I mean, way a 2-horse race. You look at the other 5 entries, it's not going to be easy for those horses to win. When you look at speed figures, the 3 and 4 just really stand out. And so when you look at the 7 horses, 4 of them are double digits. Electant, a Brad Cox horse at 5-2 on the rail. And then the other one's Good Cheer 4-5, Quiet Side 3-1. As far as the Brad Cox horses go, I lean heavily towards Good Cheer, and I put number 3, Good Cheer, on top. She's been pretty fantastic. The debut maiden race at Horseshoe Indianapolis was a dominant effort, won by 8. The next race, an allowance here at Churchill Downs, going 1 mile and 16th. She won by 17 lengths, just absolutely dominated that field. And then last time out, going 1 mile and 16th again in the Rags to Riches, she was awesome. I mean, another dominant performance. And so this horse has just kind of run away with them 3 straight times. Godolphin homebred. I mean, so obviously bred very well. The distance, I think they probably debuted at Horseshoe Indianapolis because they could get a 1 mile race for the horse. They may probably just wanted to go longer instead of debuting her in what a lot of times in August, there's 6 or 7 furlong races. So probably wanted to get the distance, in her already. So she's going to be really tough. I think she's probably a single for me. She looks tough in the spot. Let's talk about the number 4 Quiet Side, though. A horse, nice maiden breaking win at Saratoga. That's always, a good path to the hype train, so to speak. You break the maiden at Saratoga or Del Mar, people remember you. The next spot was in the spinaway, got beat by Immersive by a length and a quarter, ran pretty competitively. And then the next spot was the Darley Alcibiades, got third. You guessed it, beaten by Immersive, beaten by 3 and a quarter there. So you've been beat by Immersive twice. Okay, that's fine. All that horse did was win, the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies. No big deal. Quick Kick also beat you in that race in the Darley Alcibiades. Well, that horse was third at the Breeders' Cup juvenile. So it's very, very interesting to see this horse and see the competition. And then you look at Good Cheer and you go, well, she hasn't kept the competition. So it's very much I kind of want the horse that's proven she can run kind of with the best horses, or do I want this horse that's been blowing out easier horses? It kind of more of the flashy one. I think that's always a debate you get into when you talk about 2-year-old racing in the stakes level, and then on to really the Kentucky Derby trail, or the Oaks Trail. Because you think about it, most of those races here's a horse that's kind of established, and here's a horse that's won a maiden by 1 million, and who's better. That's kind of what you get here. The only difference in the difference of why I'm leaning towards Good Cheer here instead of Quiet Side, she's not just a maiden winner. She went and won an allowance, and then she went and won a stakes. So obviously, she, even though has not faced an Immersive type of horse, she's been facing decent horses and beating them rather easily. So the 3 Good Cheer for me, Quiet Side, second. I get it. The only other negative that I would point out with Quiet Side, I don't think she ran quite as well when she stretched out to 1 mile and 16th. You look at the pedigree, she's by Malibu Moon out of a Speightstown mare. It's 50-50. That might be a little bit more of a sprinter type. And I think this will kind of give us a good idea as well. But she still ran okay going 1 mile 16th, but I think those 1-turn races may have been a little bit better. So I went with Good Cheer in that one. Man with a comment here, for what it's worth, Brad Cox always keeps a string at Horseshoe Indy. And it seems to be thought of as a very good training track from trainers I've talked to. That is 100% spot on. A lot of guys that are stabled in Kentucky will send some decent to good horses up to Horseshoe Indianapolis. Sometimes they use it as a class drop. You can't, if you handicap that track day in and day out, you see it. Hey, they ran 5th or 6th at Churchill. Let's take them up to Indy. The purses are pretty good. Let's try to get a win. But there's a lot of good younger horses, and that's what kind of Mantle is talking about here with Brad Cox and with Good Cheer. I still think, distance probably was ideal, but also they're not afraid to take that horse up there. That's not a track that some of these kind of smaller tracks they're not highly thought of, but Horseshoe Indy, that's a really good track, really good surface. So you definitely could keep an eye out. I'll keep the comment up for a second. We also know with Cox, Horseshoe Indy, Turfway Park, Fairgrounds, Oaklawn, Churchill. That's kind of the base for him. Ellis as well. He kind of gets it wrong sometimes with his 2-year-olds. He'll kind of debut one. You think, boy, that should have been with the A team, and maybe it was with the B and the C team. You think of Encino. Encino's a horse that, man, why is he at Turfway? This is a really, really good horse. And he takes him to Keeneland, and he looks fantastic in the Lexington. And who the hell knows where Encino is now? But anyway, that was kind of an example. And there's been examples over the years as that as well. So, and yeah, there's been some good horses. I do not remember Monomoy Girl. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't. That's been too long, too many horses. I don't remember where she debuted, but I am 99% sure Angel of Empire did debut there at a Horseshoe. So, it's really not a big deal that the horse debuted there. That's just kind of, and again, if you're in Churchill, because this horse, Good Cheer, had been working out at Keeneland and Churchill Downs, so Lexington, Louisville. If you're there, it's very easy to go up to Horseshoe Indy. So if you get a race, you think it's going to fit, you think things are going to work out, that's a very easy trip. And they use that all the time. And again, like I said, the purses at Horseshoe Indy for a smaller track, not bad at all. So, all right, that's enough plug for Horseshoe Indy. Good place. Anyway, let's go on to the main event on Saturday. I'll put it up on the screen now for you guys. And that is the Kentucky Jockey Club. Race 11 on the card here. Another grade 2 event going a mile 16th. This time, obviously, for the males, $400,000 the purse. Field of 10 in this one. And it's going to be headlined, of course, by Jonathan's Way. He'll be the 5-2 favorite here. By the way, Jonathan's Way is right now 20-1 in the future pool. So kind of tells you what people think of him. They're still pretty high on him, even though he did not run all that well. He didn't run very well at all. Let's face it. In the Breeders' Cup, couple of other ones. Let me look here real quick that are mentioned. Tistastic is in the Kentucky Derby future pool, 50-1 horse by Tiz the Law. Crazy that Tiz the Law has horses old enough to run in the Derby next year. Dapper Moon, I would imagine, is listed here. No, he's not. Never mind. I think that may be about it. Let's see. First Resort. Let's see if anybody listed him. Yeah, First Resort is 99-1. Filoso actually 99-1. That's another one. So 2 horses in there that are 99-1 in those future pools. I just kind of checking here real quick to give you any other ones. I believe that's it. Yeah, I believe that's it. So Tistastic, Jonathan's Way, Filoso, First Resort. Those are your horses you could bet here. Mantle likes Filoso here, so he's 99-1 in the future pool. He's 8-1 in this field. Let's forget about the future pool. Talk about this field. Field of 10, like I said, it's certainly, to me, as we kick it off here, it seems to be kind of the line in the sand for the number 2 Jonathan's Way. He was really sharp at Saratoga, and he was even more sharp in his next start in the Iroquois here at Churchill Downs. Those races were 6 furlongs and a 1-turn mile. Stretched out to 2 turns for the first time, 7th, beaten 7 in the Breeders' Cup Juveniles. So now it starts, right? The horses that were also ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, were they a victim of just a paceless race and, they just didn't fire that day? Or did we overrate that field? And I think that's going to start to break down over the weeks and maybe even months to come as the horses start to come back. Jonathan's Way is the first one to come back. So that will start to get that answered in this race. The other big question for him, Did he run poorly because of the pace or because he just didn't like Del Mar? Or did he run a little bit poorly because he doesn't want to go 2 turns? I think that's the big question mark. The second thing that we'll definitely get a pretty decent answer on after this race. This horse is by the coma out of an Indian Charlie mare. By no means does that scream 2 turns to me. However, horses can outrun their pedigrees all the time. And I'm more of let's see what they do at the track. So I wasn't like totally against him going a mile and 16th, but then he runs poorly. If he loses this race, and even more so, if he doesn't run very well, say he runs second, but somebody freaks, it's like, well, hey, okay. But if he runs second, third, fourth off the board, whatever, and he just kind of looks average, I think we can shut the door on his Kentucky Derby chances because I think that distance is going to be a problem. I tend to lean more towards he can get a mile and a 16th. So I do think he'll be able to get that. Can he get a mile and a quarter? Another question for another day. Not worried about that, particularly right now. But can he get a mile and 16th? I think he will. So I think he's definitely the one to beat in here. He stands out on paper, no doubt about it. Let's just go to another horse that I'm fairly interested in. And it's one that I don't want to get like overly high on. But I thought the last race was really good. And that's the number 7 Sonic Skedaddle. Love the name. First of all, great name. So this horse debuted at Churchill Downs and just didn't do much, right? His race last time out though was really good. This horse got the pace set up, but just absolutely dominated a maiden special weight going 7 furlongs, won by 4 3/4. Then you look at the pedigree and you go, okay, this horse is by City of Light out of a Tappet mare. Great. I think a mile 16th, this horse will get much better running this distance. And then you look and you go, okay, well, Machado was on this horse the last 2 races. Now it's Tyler Gaffleone. Well, that's 3 for 3 and good signs that this horse is going to run pretty darn good today. So I think the 7 is dangerous. I really think the setup for the 7 is going to be there as well. I think it's going to be pretty fast. So I think Sonic Skedaddle, a horse I'm pretty interested in. We'll see if he can kind of show up and kind of live up to what I think he can do. He's kind of that rising superstar. Back up. He's kind of the potential for a rising star. We'll see what happens. I don't want to say too much good about him because he's just a maiden winner. That's it. But we'll see. It's early. Some of the other horses that I think will take money, Dapper Moon, probably going to take a little bit of money. I don't, him and Tistastic, the 3 and the 4, they exit out of the street sense. One was second, one was fourth. I say that flippantly because they were a quarter of a length that kind of separated them. If you go back and watch the street sense, Sovereignty dominates the race by 5 lengths, and then they all kind of finish not all, but a lot of them finish in a blanket behind him. So I'm not 100% interested in the 3 and the 4. I think those are horses you can fade that might take money, especially in the underneath spots. I thought the 5 Filoso, a horse that, 2 races back looked very good going a mile, stretched out to a mile 16th. Hey, he got beat by East Avenue and Ferocious. I don't really hold that against him. I think he's another one. If he gets the pace set up, he makes sense. So I do like the 5. I do like the 7 as horses that make a little bit of sense. The last one I want to talk about is the 9 Render Judgment. This kind of has a Kenny McPeak special written all over it a little bit. You look at the numbers of the 9, and it's not really anything to write home about. Pretty good debut at Keeneland, got second, only beaten a length and a half, I should say. And then a winner when stretching out to 2 turns right here at this track 34 days ago. This kind of has the look of a Kenny McPeak that will improve, that will jump up and maybe run a better race than he has in the first 2. We saw a maiden special weight last weekend on Saturday. It was the last race on the card. It was race 10 on Saturday at Churchill. And Kenny McPeak was running a second-time starter who had lost to the big favorite. And it's like these McPeak horses, when they're good, they do kind of have a little bit of a logical progression as they start their first 3 or 4 races. And she went up and won the race. I'm not saying Render Judgment can do that because the assignment is much tougher here. There's crazier 12 to 1 shots to play is what I'm trying to say. Don't be shocked if this horse runs pretty well on Saturday. The number 9 Render Judgment. All right, I'm going to go number 2 Jonathan's Way on top though. I said it off the bat. I think he stands out in a major way amongst this group. And I think the big question mark will be the mile on the 16th. I mentioned earlier, I would probably, in the 9th race at Churchill, the Golden Ride we talked about, I think Good Cheer's a single. I just think she's better. This race, I'm not sure on. I've got Jonathan's Way on top, but I am going to play a little bit of those. I'm not going to play like Tistastic or Dapper Moon or First Resort, but I am going to play kind of those longer prices with the Filoso Sonic Skedaddle Render Judgment. So I'm going to use the favorite and then try to get some prices with him. I'm not sold on him. I thought, he's sitting there in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, 2-3 links behind, and then he just kind of didn't do anything. I don't think he has a huge excuse as far as, maybe he can't win from where he was sitting, but couldn't he run second or third? I think so. So at least ran on. He kind of just went backwards. So I don't know. It's enough for me to be a little skeptical, but you can't deny the race 2 back. If he can just stretch that out of 16th, I don't think they're going to catch him. So give me the 2 on top, and then I'm going to use the 5, the 7, and the 9 underneath. Some comments here as we keep going. Is this true, Manlo? Manlo says Encino is going to Dubai. That would be crazy. If you forgot about Encino, he was tearing up the track at Turfway. They entered him to run in the Bluegrass, and they scratched him. And we were all like, shit, I thought he might be able to win that race. They ran him back in the Lexington, and he was fantastic. I thought, holy cow, that was really good. So much so that I thought I may bet this horse to win the Kentucky Derby out of that race. Well, he gets hurt out of the race. We haven't seen him since. So going to Dubai would be crazy. I hope that happens in this one. Manilos says First Resort will put pressure on Jonathan's Way. I'm guessing if he goes to the lead here, I think. I think First Resort very fast. I think the 6 Clock Tower is a decently fast horse. The problem is with Clock Tower, especially, he's coming out of 2 turf races back to the dirt. Sometimes that'll mess with him, but First Resort, I think so. The 10 Redacted, who's still a maiden, he was very close to a 7 furlong pace. I don't really, maidens going to stakes. I don't really know what the plan will be. I don't know what they're thinking, but I think he'll go from this outside post. So that's why, and I know you like Filoso and Sonic Skedaddle too, Mantle, but that's kind of why I kind of looked at those even harder. It's like, this should set up pretty decent for a closer. So we'll see if that actually happens. A lot of times when you handicap a race and then you look up and you're like, oh, they went 48 for the half, really, with all that speed. I mean, how many times does that happen? A lot. So Rob says Jose Ortiz now and Assman's go-to guy. I think that's something you'll see when Ortiz and Asmus are at the same track, which it's not, not all that often that happens, but Asmussen has been using Ortiz a little bit. So we'll see. All right, let's go to the last one here. We'll wrap things up. We'll get away from the 2-year-olds and we'll go back to the 3-year-olds. And boy, howdy, this is a tough race here without any doubt. We're going to go to the Hollywood Derby here. It'll be the last race on the card Saturday at Del Mar. That is race number 9. It's a grade 1 race for the 3-year-olds. Like I said, 1 1/8 on the grass, $300,000 the purse. Field of 13. I don't know. Where do you start? This is really tough. I feel like the first race we talked about, the Clark was, I think it's, wide open-ish, right? Then there are kind of 2 straightforward races on paper. And then there's this one where you could kind of go a lot of different ways. So a little bit of variety on this one for sure. All right, grade 1 event here. This is, one that was really hard to kind of decipher between. I really like the number 7, Donegal Momentum. I think that's a horse I think will be a little bit of a price. I want to get a little bit of a price involved. So Donegal Momentum is who I put on top. This is the 7 here. We don't have odds, unfortunately, but the horse 2 races back moved to the turf for the first time, while also stretching out to 1 1/16 for the first time, won by a nose, and then last time out in a stakes race there at Belmont at the Big A on the turf again, won by 2. Both times got, looked better than he ever really had on the dirt. So I think Donegal Momentum, a horse to really keep an eye on. Check out him here. I think he's going to be like, 6-8 to 1. So I like him quite a bit. The number 4 Carson's Run, I think will be the favorite and probably deservingly so. And kind of why I kind of just want to get a price involved, but won the Jockey Club Derby Invitational last time out, did it by 3/4 of a length, 2 races back, second at Kentucky Downs in the Nashville Derby. Carson's runs won the Saratoga Derby, very impressively as well. So, this is a horse that comes in with a lot of credentials, right? Obviously, very nice horse, looking strong in this one. Not going to be shocked if he wins. If you want to support him at what I think will probably be 8-5 or so, I get it. I totally get it. Another horse that I think is extremely interesting in the spot, nearly put him on top, is the number 5 Kings of Gosford. D'Amato on the turf at Del Mar. Don't need to say any more there. How about Irad Ortiz coming in to ride at King of Gosford? I thought that was very interesting. So we're at the home track, and it's just a situation we're getting a better jockey. We got Pratt last time out, and the horse was able to win here at this track, kind of the local prep for this, if you will. So, yeah, I think he can come back here and win again. I think he'll get a good trip. I love that Irad's here. So the 5, another one I think highly of as well. So that's kind of the top 3 I'm looking at right now. Haven't completely decided what I want to do as far as, who do I really want to play in this spot as a multi-race ticket go. Haven't handicapped the rest of the card to kind of put that together. That's just kind of the 3 that I've been looking at the most and who I like the most as well. So, well, I should say one more. Speaking of Flavian Pratt, he gets aboard the number 2 Rothschild. This horse really doesn't look like a winner to me, but it's Flavian Pratt at Del Mar, and he usually does pretty well. I think he could have got a better mount, though. I don't know that one has that great of a chance, but it's Flavian Pratt, so you kind of got to keep a lookout for him. He'll break from the 2-hole there for Tim Yakteen. All right. Well, there isn't much more to cover here on the show. Just want to go back and circle back to what I was talking about a little bit later. Those are the 4 races we'll cover today. But again, if you're watching live, or maybe if you're watching this recorded and it's already over, the headliner again, the day before Thanksgiving, Bob Baffert debuts Barnes at Churchill Downs. It's what everybody's going to be talking about today, one way or the other. You're either going to be a hero and fade him and get paid a lot, or you're just going to take him and we'll see what happens. So Barnes, like I say, 7th race today at Churchill Downs. He is 6-5. So that's what to keep an eye on today. One other horse, I'll mention 2 other horses. I really liked Caribbean Dream, the 7, which was a Brad Cox first-time starter. This horse scratched. What that tells me is, okay, yes, he could be injured, and that's hopefully he's not. Or did Brad Cox scratch the horse thinking, hey, he's pretty good. I can find a better spot for him where he's going to win? I think that could be the case. So keep an eye out, though, for Caribbean Dream. Put that horse in your stable. We'll see if he shows up. And then finally, the number 6 Innovator gets Luis Saez aboard here for this one. He's kind of the measuring stick horse. He has been up against some really nice horses in his career already. And he's a D. Wayne Lucas trainee, so they've ran him 1,000 times. No shock there, right? But he's kind of been everywhere. And Innovator's exiting a grade 1 race. He ran in the Hopeful last time out. He did nothing. He got killed by Chancellor Patrick. But you kind of look at who he's been up against. He raced against Owen Almighty. That's a pretty good horse. He lost against Tough Catch. That's probably one he should have won. He lost against Sandman. Again, that's probably one he should have won. And then, like I said, 5th to Chancer, and Ferocious was in that race as well last time out. So he's kind of the measuring stick. If the Innovator wins this race, these horses probably aren't great, right? But, we can kind of say, okay, horse X beat Innovator by this much. How much did the winner of this race beat him by? That kind of thing. So I like that he's in here, not because I'm interested in him at all, but because I just kind of feel like, look, he's a measuring stick type. So we'll see what happens. All right. Let's see. Any more comments here? Yeah, I know Shoddy likes Innovator. You'll see what happens there. Yeah. Jared says Barnes 25-1. We did cover that to start the show. So that is one thing. I'll mention it again and kind of reiterate to you guys. If you're betting the all others, make sure Barnes is not included in that, because even though he has not started, he is listed in the field. Okay. So again, if you are interested in the all others, and the all others cashes a lot of times in these first ones, that's why it's 4-5. Just make sure Barnes is not part of the all others. That's something that could trip you up, because you might assume, he's not involved with it. So, Okay, yeah, and then Shoddy missed this comment, but we'll go back to it. Render Judgment is on her radar, and again, I'll kind of just mention what I said a little bit earlier on. This has the Kenny McPeak look, right? It has one that's kind of very slowly kind of progressing into that horse that you think might be decent, and here's the big one. Third time out after winning at the distance last time out. You can expect improvement, just like the Saturday maiden last week for Kenny McPeak. Yeah, late arriving crowd. That's because we started on time today. Also, a couple of Japan colts. Miss me with that for the rest of your life. I don't want to hear you in Japan ever again. After the Breeders' Cup, that's your band for that. I don't know if I can ban her or not. I don't know how to ban people, so I can't. All right. That'll do it. That's it. That's all we've got here. We've got a lot going on today. We've got Dudes Who Bet Sports coming up here in about 20 minutes. We'll be talking everything college football and NFL. And pretty efficient show here. Not a lot to talk about past what we've done. I think this is a very underrated weekend of racing. I love the Clark. I love the Goldenrod and the Stars of Tomorrow cards. Those are always great. And then Del Mar with the turf racing comes in strong as well, like they always do. They come in strong once again. So that'll do it for the show today, guys. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hopefully everybody has a great Thanksgiving. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, honestly. So I can't wait for that. Thanksgiving, 4th of July. Those are the two best. So it's going to be a very good weekend for everybody. Everybody enjoy the racing this weekend. And if you want more coverage, you want more of me, and I won't have to talk the whole time, tune in and 19 minutes now. Tune in in 19 minutes. We'll be right back here for Dudes Who Bet Sports. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.